You know, I've been in politics in a long, long time. I served in a lot of capacities before I was in the state senate and was there for 14 years. And I've been in media a long time. And I've interviewed a lot of people, Joe Biden included, but this one's special. I mean, this is really cool. Ron Garan is our guest, and Ron is, well, he's an astronaut. He's something that every kid wanted to be when he was young. Highly decorated astronaut. We're talking about 71 million miles in 2,842 orbits around our planet. I can go on and on and on. Flew in the space shuttle, flew with the Russians in their spacecraft. He's the host, and this is where it's important, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion. He's the host of Orbital Perspective podcast. So there's a way to, after you hear from Ron, to understand that you can take part in what he gives you. And he wrote the book, Orbital, The Orbital Perspective. I'm just going to bring him in. I could go through a resume forever. Ron, good to have you coming down the road with us. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Joel. Thanks for having me.
There is one more thing I want to say, okay? You once ejected from an F-16 less than a second before you would have been killed. Before we get into the meat and potatoes here, what was that like?
Well, that was an incredible experience. It was not planned, obviously, but you know, I was a F-16 fighter pilot, and I had thousands of takeoffs and landings, and on this particular day, I had a takeoff that didn't go so well. I had an engine, you know, the F-16 only has one engine, and I had it blow up on me, you know, about 5 or 10 seconds after I lifted off the ground on takeoff, and that ended up with me with my butt on a field in South Carolina. So, but what was interesting about that, it was. You know, looking back on it, I think that was a wake-up call for me. I wasn't like a reckless daredevil, but I definitely took more risk at the time than I should have. And what's interesting is I flew the very next day, and the very next day I took off in an F-16 and had another very, very serious engine malfunction. That I end up landing this one opposite direction on the same runway I just took off of, just as my number 4 in the formation was getting airborne. Lots of other things happened, you know, lots of other malfunctions happened, and it was another miracle that I survived. And having 2 of those happen back to back after thousands of uneventful, you know, takeoffs, that got my attention. And I think that changed it. You know, I saw an emerging risk-benefit trade-off developing, and I think that carried me through a lot of dangerous times in my life, from fighting in combat in Desert Storm to you know, 2 spacewalks, 2 space missions, 4 spacewalks, being a test pilot. You know, I was an instructor at the Air Force's Top Gun School, where my 3 years there, I went to 5 memorial services for friends and squadron mates and students that were killed in the training. And so I think that those 2 back-to-back incidents probably saved my life during some of those really dangerous periods.
Okay, one more, because I have to. You lived on the bottom of the ocean. I mean,
Yeah,
you go from the highest place you possibly can be to living on the bottom of the ocean. Begs the question, is there any place where you're happy? I mean, you went everywhere, Ron. I mean,
Well, I'm happy. Yeah, I hope to say I'm happy everywhere.
yeah, no, I know you are. I mean, you have lived just a wonderful life. What took you to the bottom of the ocean?
That was actually my first NASA mission. My first NASA mission was on Aquarius, which is the world's only undersea laboratory, and I spent 3 weeks there with 5 other crewmates. And we were simulating that we were in a lunar base, and we were developing lunar surface exploration techniques. We were also doing a lot of medical development, telemedicine, telerobotic surgery. We had a surgical robot with us on the bottom of the ocean that was being operated by a surgeon in Canada on mock patients, not real patients. But yeah, it's a good example of, you know, the technology in the space program being applied to terrestrial applications to improve life on Earth.
Well, it's amazing, the life you've lived. And thank you for your service to our country, before I forget to say that.
It's my honor.
I want to talk about Richard Branson. I want to talk about this kind of commercial, private, you know, efforts to get into space. What was your take on the Branson flight that took place this past weekend?
I think it's great. I think these are the baby steps that hopefully will lead to a new era of space travel, a new era where hopefully space travel becomes as commonplace as air travel. And it's reminiscent of the early days of aviation. You know, back in the beginning, it was a very rare, exciting occurrence when somebody flew in an airplane, and now we don't think twice about flying anywhere in the world. And I think what Jeff Bezos is doing with Blue Origin, what Richard Branson is doing with Virgin Galactic, certainly what Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX, are the steps towards that future where hopefully we all have the opportunity to experience space travel. And it's not just a 15-minute joyride. I think this will evolve into lots of things, including flying from point A to point B on the Earth in a fraction of the time, and part of your flight path is going to take you out of the atmosphere. So I think there's some exciting things to come.
So I have to ask this: as an astronaut, as someone who spent as much time in space as you did, when you look at what Richard Branson did, do you see him as someone who flew in space that could be classified as an astronaut, for lack of a better way of putting it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your definition of an astronaut. If your definition of an astronaut is somebody who has seen the planet from the vantage point of space, then yes. But there's also a career called astronaut, where, I mean, we don't call people who fly on an airliner an airline pilot. I mean, because they haven't gone through the training, they're not capable, or they're not trained to fly the craft, and that's normally who we would, we call pilots people who by profession fly airplanes, or maybe even not by profession, but just have the ability, have the training, have the unique training to do that. I don't have any problem calling anybody anything you want. It doesn't matter to me personally. It depends. When you use the word, I think you have to clarify whether you're talking about an experience or you're talking about a profession. I guess is what I'm saying.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that you believe that Richard Branson flew in space.
Yeah, it was. People mistake the term orbit for space. Space has a lot of artificial definitions that are just made up, if you will. I mean, NASA defines space as 50 miles above the Earth. That's where astronauts, once they pass 50 miles, we call them flown astronauts. So they get the little flown in front of their title. And their astronaut pin is their silver astronaut pin is replaced with a gold astronaut pin at 50 miles at that point. The internationally recognized boundary of space is 62 miles. That's the Kármán line. What Richard Branson did on Sunday was fly just a little bit above 50 miles, so above that NASA that line. But all of that, like I said, is kind of silly. What he and the other 5 folks on board experienced is they watched the sky turn from blue to black. They watched as they saw the unbelievable thinness of the atmosphere. They were weightless. They saw the sun in a black sky, not a blue sky. So they saw our sun as a star, and they saw the true reality of the world that we live in. And I think that's space. Now, orbital, on the other hand, is a totally different thing. So what they did is they poked up into space and they fell back down. And that's exactly what Blue Origin is going to do with Jeff Bezos, which is going to go above the 62-mile line, by the way. And so they have, and this is something that NASA did 60 years ago with Alan Shepard, popped up out of the atmosphere and then fell back down. And so what happened on Sunday was that when the spacecraft was dropped off the airplane, off the mothership, it accelerated to 3,500 miles an hour in 8 seconds going straight up. Now that's pretty spectacular. But to be in orbit is not about how far away you are from the Earth, it's about how fast you're going. And orbit is 17,500 miles an hour. That's 5 miles a second. So wrap your head around that. Think of something 5 miles away and imagine getting there in a second. That's how fast you have to go to stay in orbit, to stay in space, to be in orbit. And of the 3 billionaires, we're talking about SpaceX, and Elon Musk company is the only of those 3 that actually does orbital flight, which is a totally different ballgame.
Well, I just have to tell you, I saw the footage of you, visiting with Richard Branson. Was this about advice? Was this, I mean, what was that visit about? Or was it just a high five for two people who loved their life to the point where they knew where they wanted to go, which was space?
Well, what's interesting is if you watch that interview that I have with Richard Branson, which you can see on my YouTube channel, it looks like it was done a week ago. I mean, it looks like it was done days before his flight. I don't remember exactly how many years, but I would guess it's about 5 years ago that I did that interview. And anybody who's been following along, that flight that he was on Sunday was always 6 months to a year away for probably the last 8 years. And so it's been a moving target. But at the time I interviewed him, I'm sure he thought that there's a good chance within the next few months that he was going to have this opportunity. And so we talked about that. And, he shared his own personal desire to fulfill a childhood dream of flying in space and to see the planet from that vantage point. But he also shared a desire, and he seemed very sincere, and I believe him on it, of wanting, that the primary motive is to be able to share that experience with as many people as possible. And we both believe in the transformative effect of seeing the planet from that vantage point.
Well, folks, obviously you're interested. Obviously you want more. We get a chance to visit with Ron for a limited amount of time. Just understand that if you want to hear more, if you want to see more, if you want to read more, obviously you can go to YouTube to do that. But Orbital Perspective podcast, and he is the author of the critically acclaimed The Orbital Perspective. And I'm amazed at your work. I'm jealous. I'm not going to lie. And what a resource you are for information. I told you at some point, thank you for what you did on behalf of your country. And I'm going to say it one more time. Ron, this was a real pleasure. Thank you, sir.
The pleasure's been mine. Thank you for having me on.
What a life, ladies and gentlemen. What a life. Larry Magid joins us when we come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump's lawsuit against social media. So stick around.
Howdy folks, it's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness. During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero Binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it.
Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight, just pay a separate fee.
We'll even ship them to you free.
This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention, have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Elmiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
You know, there's one other thing I want to share about Ron Garan, the astronaut that we just had a chance to visit with. His latest book is Floating in Darkness. So make sure you take a look at that as well as you try to find out more about his work. I mean, what a sensational life he's lived as the next individual we get to visit with, and that's Larry Magid. Larry is the CEO of connectsafely.org. Again, worth your time. Get in front of that computer and check out his work. His latest lawsuit is what got our attention, which makes reference to Donald Trump's lawsuits against social media. And we asked him to come on. He said yes. Larry, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you.
I'm sitting here looking at some of what your article said, and there seems to be this belief that whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's whatever, they're only stymieing conservative speech, and that platform doesn't have the right to limit or not publish what he says. And I'd love your take on that. I'd love for you to expound on the article.
Well, there are a number of things we need to think about. Number one is anytime you make First Amendment claims, you need to read the First Amendment. And it starts out as Congress shall make no laws or pass no laws. I'm not sure I have exact wordings. It doesn't say that Facebook or Google or Twitter or, for that matter, some television station or newspaper must publish everything that somebody submits. I mean, there is freedom of speech means we also have the right not to speak or not to publish. And so not only does the First Amendment not apply to private companies, I would argue that it protects private companies' ability to say or allow people to say what the owners of those companies want to say. And that's been a principle as far as long as I can remember. That doesn't mean that Facebook and Twitter don't have a kind of a moral or ethical responsibility to present all sides, but they don't have a legal responsibility. So taking that off the table right away. But beyond that, these companies don't actually censor conservative speech. I mean, how do I know that? Because I go onto Facebook, I go onto Twitter, and I see many, many conservatives out there expressing themselves. In fact, I learned about the Trump lawsuit on Facebook, and then I read more about it on Twitter. And then I read more about it on CNN.com, all of which are supposedly enemies of the people, right, according to Donald Trump. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there are millions of conservatives. His own sons, his own family members are still on social media. And Donald Trump was on social media during his entire campaigns, prior to his campaigns, all the way up to the morning of January 7th, after he was implicated in this, whatever you want to call it, riot, insurrection, where people were seriously harmed as a result of some of the things that he was saying online. So they weren't censoring his politics. They were taking him offline after violence was committed as a result of things he had posted.
Well, and you make reference to Section 230, which I want to get to in just a second. But, Facebook and Twitter are really platforms, Google, everything else are platforms where the more play they get, the more action they get, the more powerful they are. And, of course, Donald Trump was one of the most powerful players on Twitter. He made me feel as though I could spell on Twitter often, And so my point being this, it wasn't in Twitter's best interest to take it away, to take that platform away from him.
Oh, absolutely. From a financial standpoint, Donald Trump was a welcome addition from the financial aspect to these companies because he drove so much traffic and he had so many people agreeing with him and people disagreeing with him. And from Twitter's standpoint, it doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree. Anytime you have traffic, a media company, they get eyeballs, they get more advertising revenue. So from that perspective, Donald Trump was great for them. Also, I had conversations with very senior executives at Twitter years ago. In fact, it was in 2017, after Donald Trump had done some things on Twitter which would have gotten almost anyone else kicked off. And they said, well, he's president of the United States. Everything he says is newsworthy, and we're not going to let him go. We're not going to kick him off for violating our terms of service, even though we would kick you off. We'd kick off any member of our audience today. They gave him a pass because he was president. Of course, he's no longer president, but even during his waning days as president after January 6th, they had reached a threshold.
You make reference to, you make a great point here in regards to a former Republican Congressman, Joe Scarborough, and the work that he does on MSNBC in the morning. I watch. I'm a progressive, in a Republican state, but I watch it in the morning because I get a lot of information that will cause a debate on my radio show and on my TV show. And so he basically accused Joe Scarborough of murder.
Right.
I mean, he did. And thank God you made reference to it in the article here. I mean, that's a perfect example of exactly what this article is about.
And the irony of his whole vendetta against Section 230 is ironic, because had Section 230 not been in place, Twitter probably would have been obligated to take him off the platform. So just briefly, what Section 230 does, it was an offshoot of the Communications Decency Act, which would have essentially censored the internet from any material harmful to children, which meant even adults couldn't have accessed certain types of material. That was struck down by the Supreme Court, but they left in Section 230, which essentially immunizes computer companies from lawsuits, from civil litigation, for their ability for what they post. So, for example, if Donald Trump, if it weren't for Section 230, Twitter could have been sued for allowing Donald Trump to accuse Joe Scarborough of murder. Not just Donald Trump, but Twitter could have been sued. And so they would have been responsible for everything anybody does on their program if they were considered a publisher. Just as, for example, if someone came on your television show and you allowed them to libel and slander or do something that was illegal or could be harmful, you could be in trouble, or your station could be in trouble because you allowed them to use your platform, because you are a publisher in a sense. Social media is not a publisher. How do you control the behavior of 3 billion people? So the Supreme Court, I think, wisely allowed that to go in. Congress wisely passed Section 230, and that's why Donald Trump has enjoyed the ability to go out and commit libel and slander without having to be kicked off, to protect Twitter from essentially potentially multi-billion-dollar lawsuits.
That's the reason oftentimes you see disclaimers, people trying to buy insurance on many of the things that you just said. What do you think it was that finally pushed it over the top? Do you think it was the insurrection? Do you think, because to me, Larry, what we're seeing right now is playing out of whether or not it was Donald Trump's fault. I'm pretty clear in my comments and in my beliefs, it was Donald Trump's fault. He got these folks worked up into a lather, and he sent them to that Capitol to do just what they did. And he knew in large part what they were going to do. And so is that what pushed Twitter, Facebook, Google finally over the top?
I think that was the final straw. And that was after, again, years of demeaning. Remember what he said about Maxine Waters? He just constantly was, and admittedly, public figures are as you know, as a public figure yourself, have a higher standard when it comes to slander and libel. But he even went after, didn't he go after some victims, a woman whose husband had been killed? I mean, he went after some civilians. These are things that would not be tolerated if you did it or I did it. But I think that the insurrection was the final straw, because Donald Trump's words helped incite violence. Donald Trump then went and maybe called these people good people. He basically celebrated violence in a sense. He didn't, and he's clever. He wasn't explicit. He didn't say, I really like the fact that cops got beat up, but he did say on social media positive things about the insurrectionists. And if I were to go on social media and start saying positive things about terrorists, murderers, depending on the context, they might kick me off. If I did that in a way that would celebrate the violence and give aid and comfort to people who are harming other people.
Larry, does he get it back? The man's running for president again.
Yeah.
Joel Heitkamp's opinion, I'm sure that many share it with me. Does he get this platform back?
Well, I think Twitter has said no, and Facebook has said maybe. So Facebook has a advisory board, actually not an advisory board, I'm sorry. They have a review board made up of very distinguished people, including Nobel Prize laureates, a former prime minister, I think, of Denmark. And this group has basically said, we're going to give it 2 years and see what happens. And Facebook has to kind of go back to the drawing board. So the answer on Facebook is maybe. I mean, an argument could be made if somebody is a nominee of their party for president of the United States, that once again, you look the other way. That argument could be made because he will again be a legitimate newsmaker. And I don't mean he's a newsmaker now, but even television networks are frequently ignoring some of the things he's saying now because he's no longer president of the United States. So I don't know. I mean, personally, if he comes back and he starts again fomenting violence or spewing hate speech, I would hope they would immediately take it away from him. They maybe put him on probation. Again, conservative thought ought to be on social media. It is on social media. I love the fact that people can go to my website and disagree with me or go to my Facebook feed. And as long as they don't harass, as long as they don't demean, as long as they don't spew hate speech, I welcome and encourage that interaction, as I'm sure you do.
Yeah, exactly. It gets a debate going. I monitor it for how bad they cuss at times, and I'm not always very successful at that. His son, nobody is stymieing Donald Jr.
Right.
No one is stymied. He still has vehicles to social media, not the least of which, and what upset him the most, was Fox News. You know, that is media. And when Fox News called, rightfully so, the election in Arizona, for Joe Biden, he just blew up. Trump just blew up. And so, it doesn't matter. He's going to pout no matter what they do. And so at some point, you would think that these platforms would say, we don't care. Just go sit in a corner somewhere.
Well, Trump's had many lies, and I know that my purpose here isn't to be political, and I'm trying, I have nothing against Republicans or anybody else who legitimately argues in their behalf, but Trump has lied, and this issue of the conservatives' bias is a lie. And all you have to do is go on Twitter and look at the conservatives or look at on Facebook, on social media. And in fact, one of the reasons I know that is because I go on Twitter and I read many conservative viewpoints on Twitter. Very strong pro-Trump people are on Twitter, many of them, millions of them, and they haven't been kicked off. So it seems to me that makes it obvious. The ones that have been kicked off, now there have been a few mistakes. I admit it. There have been some algorithms or moderators that have made mistakes, but in every case they've been corrected. But in the ones that people who have been permanently banned and remain banned, it's because they did something that violates the terms of service, not because of their ideology, but because of their behavior.
Go to his website, go to Connect Safety Safely. Larry, you're good at what you do. You are.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking time with us today.
It's a pleasure. Happy to come back. Thanks so much.
You bet. Larry Magid's is just brilliant at what he does, and he's worth a read. So go check it out. When we come back, Representative Steve McCleery is going to join us. South Dakota, recreational marijuana. Why don't they have it yet? We'll visit with the senator right after this.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Calling all farmers. Join us Friday, July 16th for Farmers Night at the Bismarck Bucks. The Bucks take on the Frisco Fighters with a 6:05 p.m. kickoff, and we'll highlight our friends at Farm Rescue as we help raise money to support our farmers around the region. For more information on tickets, please visit bismarckbucks.com. Get your free general admission tickets today.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I've known Steve McCleery for a while. First off, he represented South Dakota. I represented North Dakota, so we had something in connection there. And of course, we didn't live that far apart. Steve lives in the Siston area, and for me, that's driving distance. That's about 40 minutes away. And so we've had the opportunity to talk to each other for quite a while. Now, when you look at South Dakota politics, you've got a governor and Governor Noem that didn't win by a lot of votes. People have lost sight of that because she's playing all over national media, which is her goal. She has big-time goals from a national standpoint, but she didn't win by many votes in a pretty red state. And Steve joins us now because one of the questions I have is how popular the governor is. Steve McCleery, good to have you coming down the road with us.
You bet. Glad to be back on. Thanks for the invite.
So
Great.
Here's the point. The South Dakota people voted. They voted in a higher percentage for recreational marijuana than they did for Governor Noem. And yet she's at war with that vote. She's trying to take away their ability to have recreational marijuana. The obvious question is, what is going on?
Well, and that's a typical situation, political party type. Medical marijuana was even more. And for the percentages, that was like 70 or 72% of the people in South Dakota for that, and I think recreational was around 62 or 64. So what's going on? Same old stumbling blocks, as you know, in legislature in North Dakota, and I know here, if they don't get their way, they'll come with something. Initiated Measure 22 a few years ago. People passed it by 75%, I think. The Republican Party did not like it. I hate to get into, but that's the way it was. And they switched things around, and it was not what the people voted for at all. It's all a matter of, I guess, who's in power, or do you listen to the people of the state? Plain and simple.
So what was that measure, Steve? Did you say 22, or what was that measure that they didn't like that passed overwhelmingly?
Initiated Measure 22, I'm trying to think, that was about 5 years ago. Something dealing with, it slips my mind right now. I guess I won't go there, so I don't misstate. But
they did overwhelmingly pass it.
Overwhelmingly passed it. When we brought it up in the Senate and the House, the Capitol was full. I mean, there was people there protesting, and just you're not doing what we asked you to do. When we voted on that, we had highway patrol, law enforcement, dogs. I mean, it was jam-packed in the House and in the Senate for people trying to respond to what is going on, with the people and what they voted for and what they asked for.
So did the medical marijuana issue surprise you?
That it passed?
Yeah. Not medical, just recreational. I should have phrased that better. When South Dakota voted to have recreational marijuana and it was on the ballot, did you think it was going to pass?
I was borderline. I didn't know if it would. I knew medical marijuana would pass and pass handily. So did it throw over, and it came with that. But two separate voting issues, Joel. But, people, and quite handily. So then you have to deal with it. That's what I get elected for. That's what you got. You deal with those, and you try and make them work. And she put her feet in the gravel and the sand, and she was not going to budge on that at all until, I mean, you know, even in the court system. No, this is what the people said, and that's what you got to do. So, you know, there you are.
Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. He's right. You and I both know that. And we're both old enough to know who Tip O'Neill was. But the point I'm building to here is you can beat Kristi Noem and you can play out on the Donald Trump stage. Excuse me. You can be very, very popular on conservative TV and everything that comes with it. But it's home. It's home that matters. That's the base. Are South Dakotans happy with the fact that they voted for recreational marijuana and she is doing everything she can to take it away from them?
No. I'm hearing a lot of that. They're not happy with her, and there's a few other issues. Keep in mind, she won that election by 13,000 votes. That's not many. And I have heard a rumor. Now, this is a rumor. She may be primaried if she, you know, in the next go around. So that tells you something, Joel. She's not that popular. Well, even in her own.
And it's clear that Senator Rounds and some of the most powerful people on the Republican side, I don't think they like her. And I don't think they like how she governs with this mirror in one hand and the state plane in the other. And so it won't shock me if some of those individuals are willing to challenge her. In terms of recreational marijuana, why do you think it is? Because, Steve, I believe it would pass here. You know, they did everything they could to keep it off the ballot. They used some verbiage here, some verbiage there to say, look, it didn't qualify, even though it had the signatures. So why do you think it is that two conservative states like the Dakotas, one already passing it and the other, I think, going to pass it, support recreational marijuana?
Some of it, I think, is an age group with you and I. It's another generation. The older generation is maybe past, and as you said on your radio program this morning, let's look at the military individuals, you know, with the Vietnam War and on and on. We're in that stage now. That's our group. And it's not caused any issues. It's actually, to me, it's a sedative. Let's compare that to alcohol. We can do that. Alcohol, you know, you can get tired or almost sedated with alcohol, or the reverse. You can get very angry, very ugly, and hard to control. With marijuana, and I know some individuals that use that. They said it's more of a sedative. It'll bring you down. It relaxes you. You see something of that nature, and I think that's what we're seeing in society now. You know, it's not that big of a deal.
Right. When some of those 70-year-olds now, many of who did serve this country in uniform in the Vietnam era, when they look in the mirror, they see somebody that smoked marijuana. When they look in the mirror, they see somebody that isn't a felon. When they look in the mirror, they see possibly the opportunity without having to hide the fact they still smoke marijuana. And so it's going to happen, whether Kristi Noem likes it or not, Steve.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, as I talked a little bit this morning, let's talk about that. Employees, and you brought that up on your show this morning. There's a workforce there. Some of them are in prison. If they didn't do anything, there's no felon behind them. But as I find out, being on a hospital and a nursing home board, if you get individuals that apply for that job that are so well qualified, and they can't pass the drug test. Really? 2 years ago on a hospital board meeting, I specifically remember, let's bypass that. Don't worry about that. You've got people that come, if you to test them on a daily basis for the alcohol content, I'll guarantee you will have some that will show up positive. But now it's marijuana, and we can't hire that person?
Yep, I hear you. Steve, it's always good to visit with you. Let's do it again soon, okay?
Excellent. Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to take a look at shrinkflation. What is it? We'll talk about it right here as we go down the road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow, and deep pocket sheets that will fit over over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Go for Launch 2018 series winner. Without further ado, it is my honors. Reginald. The winning team is the Flumin River Pixel.
Oh my God!
They won!
Shrinkflation. What is it? Well, we're about to talk about it. Bill Dendy is a personal finance expert, and I think once he explains it, you're going to shake your head and say, I always knew it. I've seen it. I just didn't know what to call it. Bill's right here with us right now. Bill, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Hey, it's great to be with you. And you're right, we're seeing it everywhere and almost every product. We know inflation is in the market today, but we're also seeing products not going up in price, but they're shrinking in size. And that's what the shrinkflation is all about.
So, you know, and you mentioned down in size and staying the same price, that type of thing. Give people an example, because I can give you one. And it's the worst example I can possibly give you. But my Hershey bar has gone down in size before, and it's gone up in price. So there's my one.
That's an excellent example. Candy bars across the board and lollipops. Smaller lollipops, smaller candy bars, same price. And on top of that, sometimes the packaging is just as big, but the bar inside is a little smaller. And so we're getting fewer calories. Maybe it's a good thing. But in other things like toilet paper rolls, fewer sheets of toilet paper in my roll for the same price. Or my orange juice. I had read a case where a person went to Aldi and they were so excited that the orange juice went from $2.19 down to $1.99. And there's that psychological thing of it being under $2. But they got home and discovered the bottle looked the same height, but it was 25% less juice. So basically, for a few pennies in savings, they lost a quarter of the product. We're seeing this in antiperspirants. In fact, cereal aisles. You see things like taller boxes, so psychologically it looks like you're getting more, but you're actually getting less. And that and antiperspirants and other things as well. And I even see the faking you out with that taller box and then putting family size across the top. And so now you're like, it's got to be more. It's family size. But then you do the comparison, and it's the exact same size or less than the standard non-family size. So in so many ways, we're starting to see this shrinkflation occurring in our lives, which means we have to be smarter and better consumers than probably at any other time.
Well, that was my next question. Is that on us? I mean, is that on me as a consumer when I'm buying toilet paper, when I'm buying a bag of Dorito chips? I don't mean to say a brand, but when I buy a bag of chips like I did last night for a get-together Sue and I are going to have, and it's only half full. And yet I picked it up and it said family size or fun size, that type of thing. So it got my attention and I bought it. And quite frankly, Bill, I'm not sure I did my homework.
Well, I hate having to use extra brain cells on things like this that should be as simple as buying a bag of chips. But you're exactly right. We need to be vigilant, because if we're not, we're spending money and not maximizing our goods. And I know that for a lot of folks, they would rather keep the price the same and get smaller goods because they only have so much that they can spend on this product or that product. But I think most of us would like to know what our options are. And it's been proven that this works. The companies that do it, they do well. And because it works, they're going to continue to do it, which means for an informed consumer, you've got to do that extra calculation on what am I paying per ounce? What am I paying per pound? Am I maximizing my goodies? Because most of us have finite resources. And on finite resources, we want to have as much fun or as many potato chips and candy bars as we can get, which means we have to probably put a little more time into doing the calculations than what we had to do 10 years ago or at any other previous time when things were more uniform. And I see things, even my wife, she loves Febreze. She'll Febreze the whole house. I let her. And she nice, clean Febreze smell. Febreze went from aluminum containers to plastic containers, which for some people, environmental concerns are like, that's not good. But what's not good for consumers, they went from 9.7 ounces to 8.8 ounces and charging the same amount of money. And so I know that we all want to be, I don't know, we want to get the most for our dollars, and some of us want to be environmentally conscious. And it means that if we want to do all these things, we've got to put a little time into our shopping so that we maximize every dollar.
Well, you know, I'm a Democrat, so oftentimes people accuse me of saying, boy, the government can fix everything. So here's my question. Is there any watchdog out there? I've seen Consumer Reports. I've read that. I understand that. But in the article that I read, there's a former Massachusetts Assistant Attorney General, a consumer advocate, long time, that's getting after some of these folks. I mean, you're willing to do interviews like this to try to tell people to be diligent, those type of things. Is there anyone out there that can take these guys to the woodshed for doing this?
They're not doing what's illegal. We can take them to the woodshed when they tell us we got orange juice and we realize they don't have orange juice in the orange juice. When it's only 10% fruit juice and they're selling it as orange juice, that's a problem. When we go to get veal and we find out it's pork shoulder and we wanted veal, that's a problem. And we have the watchdog groups to prevent that. If they tell us that we're getting 10 ounces and we only got 8 ounces, well, that's illegal, and we got groups to protect us from that. But when they put on the can that it's 8.8 ounces, and just psychologically, we don't know what 8 ounces looks like and what 10 ounces looks like. And it used to be 10 ounces, and now it's 8. You can't seem to, it seems to fall back to the consumer without putting undue pressure on the companies. And consumers just need to be made aware that this thing is taking place. It's not life or death for most of us. For many of us, it's like what you describe on the candy bar. It's frustration, but we vote with our dollars. And voting with our dollars, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent, companies pay attention when you vote with your dollars.
Yeah.
But as long as we keep responding this way, they'll keep doing this. And so just get the most and buy the products that really have the most. And that's how you'll be voting with your dollars.
See, I think that's the best advice you could possibly give people. I live in a town that, if you add up the immediate rural area, I live on a little lake adjacent to a town, so you can add it up to around, I don't know, 1,300, 1,400 people, Bill. But when we go to our grocery store, it's a small town grocery store is what I'm building to here. You know, you're not going to find the Costco look to it. You're not going to find the Walmart look to it. They're gonna have what you need, but it's not going to be the big size, that type of a thing. I'm wondering if I'm not getting the better buy. I'm wondering if that isn't the reason I love shopping at home. Plus, I have a grocery store there.
It is truly possible. And I think a lot of people have been duped by the idea that if we do wholesale buying, if we buy in bulk, we're going to save a whole bunch of money. And in fact, there have been a number of studies that show Walmart compared to Sam's. Same ownership. You think you're going to get a better deal at Sam's, but not always. Again, just be a wise consumer, because we want to have as much goodies as we can for ourselves and our families. And it means that we have to be wise consumers. And you mentioned that, politically speaking, a lot of things have changed over the last several months. And a lot of that change is probably positive, yet it means we have to be thinking more. When taxes are changing, we have to now think more about how am I going to do my tax return. It's not as easy as it used to be. Everything seems to be getting more complex, and you don't want to have to go hire a professional advisor to do your shopping for you, but it does mean that you probably need to put some time in and know where you need to get some help and where you fit on that thing to maximize the good for you.
Well, right now, Bill, you're talking to a lot of farmers and ranchers. They're the ones watching this show. And I have to tell you, there's a whole nother layer of this. It might not be in size, but it certainly is in terms of the profit made by the middleman vis-a-vis the meat packers. So we're going to have you back another day to talk about it, okay?
I would love to talk about that, as well as pesticides and other regulations that we're being put upon right now that we didn't used to get put upon, and it's making it more difficult, I think, for the smaller farmer to compete with the big one. Yet we say we're so pro-family farm.
Yeah.
That is a big question mark for a lot of people right now. So you've got the right audience for that.
Okay.
And I'll look forward to visiting with you again.
We'll do that. Some closing comments for you here as we go down the road right after this.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc. Yeah.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you could pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
Calling all farmers. Join us Friday, July 16th for Farmers Night at the Bismarck Bucks. The Bucks take on the Frisco Fighters with a 6:05 p.m. kickoff, and we'll highlight our friends at Farm Rescue as we help raise money to support our farmers around the region. For more information on tickets, please visit bismarckbucks.com. Get your free general admission tickets today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Elmiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
I'm going to be back with you next week. Jim Shaw is going to be in this chair tomorrow. But I have to tell you, when Beck TV called me and said, hey, would you like to join our network? I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know where they were going to go with it. I didn't know what to do other than the fact I thought it was interesting and worth a try at this phase of my career. I can tell you this. I knew right away I was going to need someone to help me. And that individual is a longtime co-worker and somebody I saw grow into a great partner in media in a woman named Amy Eiler. And she helps me program. Today, we had a chance to talk to an astronaut. We had a chance to talk to someone who understood the rules of Twitter and the president getting kicked off. He's a national expert. We got a chance to talk about pot and how it affects South Dakota. And we got a chance to talk about whether or not your candy bar is the right size. Not a bad day. Not a bad day. And I would argue this. For you folks that are taking in this program and others along Beck News, I would argue this. We match up. We do. We match up. You take a look at some of the other programming that's out there, and I'm not sure that they can give you as broad of a flavor as what we just did. And so while I want to congratulate Amy, I want to congratulate where we are today versus where we first started. It isn't always going to be partisan. I'm not afraid to be partisan. I'm not afraid to give you that perspective, an opposite perspective of what you might hear on other shows. But I will tell you this. We're going to continue to bring you world-class guests, the kind of guests that you'll look at and say, how the heck did they get a hold of them? And that's important to us. That's important to us as we do this job, and important to us as we grow this network, and important to us, quite frankly, as we ask you for one of the most valuable things you have, if not the most valuable thing you have, which is your time. Your time that you could be doing so many other things with. And so if you're going to share some of your time with us, if you're going to do that, then by God, we better deliver. And in the future, we're going to do what I talked about and referenced earlier. We're going to talk about meat packers. There's a perfect example. I'm sick of them taking our ranchers for a ride and the money not coming right here where it should. It's been fun going down the road with you folks. Good riding with you.